My guest this evening is a professional ballerina. I saw her perform in December and was mesmerized by her performance. Since then, we have done a written interview, and if you haven't had a chance to read it, I'll try to put it into the chat later, but it was published last month right before this tour started, so it's on my blog. And I'm so excited to have her here for a virtual interview. She dances with the Olympic Ballet Theatre out of Edmonds, Washington. I know someone who lives there. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Anisa SINTERAL. Anisa.
Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I don't know if you guys could hear that obnoxious sound, but it could have been my cat. My cat was very excited as well to be here, so.
Okay, well, hey, an excited cat's always good, I suppose, for what we have going on here. So I want to kind of go through all kinds of different things, and from your background, obviously, with your ballet and your dance and everything else that you have going on. But what I've been doing with every guest, just to kind of talk about topical things for a little bit, is how are you holding up, during this pandemic and with current events going on?
Well, so I actually ended up coming out to Seattle to work with Olympic Ballet Theatre for their program of Sleeping Beauty, and we probably worked 2 weeks, and then COVID-19 really hit and we canceled the show. And I'm lucky enough to have family out in Washington, and I am staying currently with my younger sister in her studio apartment, and we've been here for 4 months now, just hanging out. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's been hard. Like, there have been a lot of ups and downs during the whole quarantine process, which, I mean, I for one have never gone through anything like that. And so being kind of isolated in a place where I didn't necessarily feel like it was my own space, and then trying to navigate the news cycle, what was going on out there that I didn't have any control over, not being around my family, and just the overall sense of like not knowing and discomfort was pretty hard. And then now with everything going on, it's just kind of escalating into something that I hope will change the world. So
Yeah, no, that's I think what you just said is what everyone else has been feeling, and depending on, in your case, it's very unique because you're not in your the comfort of maybe your home that you consider your home. And I didn't even think about that. That would be like if I was, staying at a friend's place and all of a sudden all of this happened and I'm stuck there. Then it'd be like,
yeah,
well, I'm living in their place and it's nice and all that kind of thing, but I don't feel 100% comfortable. Maybe I'm 90% comfortable.
yeah,
And you have different surroundings and different things like that. So you have a more unique experience than, the average Seattleite.
yeah,
And I also think back too about with Olympic Ballet Theatre, because Mara and Oleg, if they happen to be watching this, hello, that they were so nice because they invited me to come watch a rehearsal of Sleeping Beauty. And unfortunately, I was sick at that time, and I didn't know if I had COVID-19 or not. So I erred on the side of caution of not showing up and infecting everyone, including the dancers. And then as it got further and further into it, because I remember they were saying, well, there's going to be, because I was looking at a Saturday rehearsal to come observe, that each one kept getting knocked off my list because I was still sick. And then eventually COVID just blew the doors open, like you just mentioned, and it wasn't even a conversation at that point.
yeah.
So I missed out on an incredible opportunity. And hopefully somewhere down the road I'll get to see the rehearsal for some show from Olympic Ballet Theatre. But let's kind of go back for everybody out there that want to hear more about like how all of this started. So like, where were you born, raised? What was your early life like?
Well, I was born in Arizona, and my family moved to Colorado when I was about 2. And I pretty much grew up there. I'm one of 5. I have an older sister who luckily lives in Washington with her fiance. And then I have me, and then it's my other younger sister, and then another younger sister who I'm staying with currently, and then my younger brother. So it's jam-packed. We are a mixed household. My dad's white and my mom's Mexican, and we had cousins constantly in the whole mix. It was just a huge family-oriented childhood. And then I kind of fell into normal teenage things. Like you decide like, oh, I want to be a soccer player, or I'm going to go to an after school program. Mine just happened to be ballet. And I kind of fell into this world of, it was just magic. I mean, being a ballerina is kind of, you see it in a jewelry box as like a young child growing up, and you get a tiara, and they don't necessarily have like princess names. So it kind of leaves it open to be you. You could be the princess. You could be that exact moment. And I think I kind of fell in love with the whole art form, and it just kind of skyrocketed from there. And I was lucky enough to be in a place where my family supported me with ballet, and my siblings supported me. They came to every show. I never had to feel like it was something I had to kind of put out there as like an, you know, I'm doing this, but I have to go to school, which is a common thing. Most dancers have a like the cataclysmic moment of deciding if they have a career or they go for an education. And I was lucky enough to be in a space where either option was supported and pushed. And I kind of just went from there. So growing up was nice. No complaints.
Oh, that's great. I mean, and what you talked about is very, very true about most folks, not even with just ballet, but a lot of the arts in general. You might have something that you're passionate about, but then the realistic part might be coming from family, parents, what have you. Well, you can fall back on that dance thing, but you need to have a career, you know, if you're going to college, and that kind of dichotomy. And for me, I understand both sides of it, because it does make sense that you want to be able to, you know, sustain yourself and pay your bills and things. But then if you can do it through something that you love, then that's obviously the best of both worlds.
Yes.
You have a unique story with your dance, and you already kind of mentioned it, that some of the folks that I've talked to who have dance backgrounds, they started when they're like 2 or 3, and they've been doing it ever since. And you started later in your career. Was it like maybe 11 or 12, something like that?
I would say, I mean, I had taken classes before that, but when I really decided like I wanted to do ballet, because I mean, I was doing hip hop and like tap and like getting down, and I really truly started ballet when I was 12.
Okay. All right. And so when you started when you're 12, up through, let's say, high school ages and that kind of thing, most dancers talk about that ballet was their focus. So that means there's a lot of other things that got sacrificed. Is that pretty much the case for yourself? And if so, what did you have to sacrifice? What did you give up during those times?
I mean, probably from the time when I really decided, I had a teacher tell me, like, he sat me down and was like, you know, Anisa, you could really make a career out of this. Because my family, they have always supported the arts and have kind of had that knowledge that is something that's out there, but no one in my family had ever really gone down the path of kind of an alternative career. It's not alternative, it's just like, you don't hear about it often, but something that's not necessarily mainstream. And he sat me down and he told me that I could really make it if I kind of tried. So I think in that moment I decided, like, well, I'm not the best at school, and like I really love this. Like I really, really love it. And like if he thinks I can do it, then like maybe I could do it. So like why not? And from then on, I pretty much gave up everything. I have, from here to now, I would say I've lost friendships from people feeling like my choices of not necessarily being able to go out and hang out with them or devote my time to the relationship in any way because I had a late night rehearsal or a show or anything like that was it was really hard. And I had to give up a lot of those moments. Or I mean, you watch the movies and the teenage experience in high school, like you see it, and I didn't necessarily have that. I kind of had a life of 6-hour days in a studio where you don't necessarily talk. You kind of just get told what to do, and you're looking at yourself and you're focusing, but you don't have that expression of finding your own personal identity. You're kind of trying to navigate who you are and put it into an identity that you can give to the audience or whoever it is you're sharing that with. So high school was kind of like a no-go. Friends. What else? I mean, trips. I think it's just kind of like the typical experience of growing up. I had a great one, and I wouldn't exchange it for anything else. But it wasn't necessarily the one I had read about in books I read or seen in movies.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think for a lot of people out there that maybe don't, attend ballet performances anywhere where they happen to be living, or just have certain ideas in their head of what a ballet dancer, male or female, are like, they don't understand all the sacrifice that goes into it. If you started when you're 12, you started when you're 3, you started when you're 18, whatever, that it's very much like being an athlete, that becomes your focus, that becomes your vision, and all these other things are going to kind of fall by the wayside. And some of them will stay with you and some of them won't, in terms of people and experiences. But and it's just like, even for myself, because I started reviewing ballet almost about 2 years ago, and I've learned so much just from talking to the ballerinas. That's the best way to learn for me, is talk to the people that do this stuff, and when they share their experiences and the amount of time and the hours and everything else. And I was becoming a fiend, going to the library and checking all these DVDs and all this kind of stuff. And it was really eye-opening to see how much dedication was put into this to be able to produce this high art, which is ballet. And so I learned things, and hopefully people out there that get a chance to watch this right now will start to understand that, yeah, it's not just wearing a tiara and a tutu and looking pretty and getting on stage for 2 hours and then you leave. It's like, this is years of work that you're seeing in front of you. And eventually, maybe if you can appreciate that from any other line of work, you'd also appreciate it from someone who does ballet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is really something that I really urge anyone who is watching or on their own or happen to find this little moment that we're sharing, that it is really, being a professional in any field, and in particular in ballet, is like you give your whole self to this moment. And it's a short career. So, I mean, you start getting older and things start changing, your body starts changing, or maybe you want a family or something, and everything kind of starts to shift. So you have this tiny bracket of your entire professional career is right here. And to have people, sometimes they don't understand, and the greatest thing you can do is just listen and learn and see how much actually goes into it, because it's your whole being. You just literally give every part of yourself, whether you're in the back and you're a rock in the show that you're watching, like, you are going to be the best rock you could have been.
No, nice. And your point's very well taken. I've had other guests on here, and there's a definitely recurring theme from talking to a wide variety of people from all walks of life, talking about, I remember the one guest who lives down in Georgia, who's a CEO of a skydiving equipment company, saying that he had no business background, but he learned everything he could about every aspect of that business. So he just thrust himself into it 100%. I think back to the Russell Wilson thing about why not us? Why not us, in terms of being that champion and having that mentality? And I'm seeing it from all the guests when they start talking about their background, that, yeah, they put everything into it. And that's really what helped propel them. So at least for me, that's been one of my big takeaways, is that you got to go for it, yeah. Basically. Awesome. So speaking of that kind of thing, and I've actually asked this of a few of the other ballet dancers I've had the privilege of interviewing, what in your opinion would be some misconceptions of ballet dancers, just in general?
That we're stuck up. There is a strange perception, and it's also among, like, when I would go to summer programs and stuff, there was this idea that you are stuck up, or you don't have any character, or it's just like an easy thing you kind of fall into. And it's not true. I mean, there's stuck up people in any job. It's not necessarily devoted to ballet. That we don't eat. I think that's also, and it's not necessarily the public's fault, because you watch these shows and they all have that kind of, like, there's a tone that goes in there with, like, ballerinas, and it's not necessarily like Black Swan. Natalie Portman comes out. And all the dancers are like, wow, they have real dancers in the back. This is going to be great. They're using a real ballerina, like, way to go. And then you watch the story, and it's basically this poor girl suffering. And like, even though some of those elements can happen to anybody's career, it's not necessarily the only path. And like, I get asked constantly about, like, do you eat? Are you stuck up? Like, I wasn't expecting you to be like this. Like, you just don't seem like that. Like, I didn't know. And it's just constant. It's a strange, like, ballet is already like a niche job, and then it has kind of like a little bubble that like people have an idea of, and it's very antiquated. And I don't know, I just, those little things happen, and you're kind of like, that's not it, but close. Someone could be like that, but it's not everyone's experience. So
Yeah, no, that, and exactly what you just said is pretty much what I've heard from every other professional ballet dancer that I've had a chance to interview about, that it's almost that they're, one person was telling me that they're kind of viewed almost like as a teacher, meaning that when they're seen out of context, it seems weird. So like if you're a student and you ran into your teacher at a restaurant, they're like, this is strange. I mean, you actually eat and you drink, or you're at the mall. What are you doing at the mall? I'm buying clothes, whatever. And they have certain perceptions of ballet dancers. If they ran into you, not on stage, but outside of, the Edmonds Performance Center or something, and be like, so wait a minute, what are you doing out here in street clothes or whatever?
yeah.
I mean, you drive a car? That's so strange to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I found this out too, because I didn't start doing the ballet coverage until later. So people knew me from the concerts and a little bit of theater and musical theater, and then I started moving to ballet and opera. And so even the other fellow media people had questions for me about, Mark, why are you covering that stuff for? And also, what's it like? Because they already figured out something in their own head, and their perception was wrong. It was completely wrong. So then I get a chance to try to educate them about that. And some of them are receptive to it, and some of them aren't. So it's like, you're not going to win them all. But just always interesting to me, people's perceptions of things. And then when you actually get a chance to talk to somebody who does it for a living, and you're like, oh, well, no, that's not what I thought at all. It's like, so crazy. And I kind of mentioned that for ballet dancers, that kind of comparison of really being like an athlete, because you have injuries, sometimes career-ending injuries, rehab, all these kind of things. Have you had any injuries over your career?
I had one major injury, actually. I was in, we were we were rehearsing George Balanchine's Serenade, and I was in the corps, and it's a beautiful ballet. If anyone is out there, they want to watch a ballet, I strongly urge you to watch Serenade. It is beautiful. It's just beauty wrapped up into a show. But I digress. I was in Serenade, and we were rehearsing it, and it was probably like a week before the shows, and we were on like hour 5, and the corps girls, like, you gotta take your hats off to the corps girls. It is grueling work to be running around constantly, because with principals in ballet, they run and they have their whatever there is, and there's like, it's just them. But with the corps, you're also kind of looking around at the 10 other girls who are the exact same. So not only are you physically tired, you're like mentally tired. You don't know what hour it is. Your feet are on fire. You could have blisters. You could be like, this is not a good time. So it was a week before the shows. I had probably hour 5. I'm dying. I was so tired, and like, we had to run through, and we had already run through it like 3 times. And I remember being like, I am hitting the wall right here. And there was a part where you kind of have these girls like this, and you cross, I don't know how you guys can see it. Maybe you cross like this. So you kind of make like a little weaving pattern. And I went to go do my jump, and I actually landed wrong on my ankle. So if this is my foot went this way, and my whole body weight slid backwards. And I couldn't get up. I had to, luckily I went and I got an MRI and everything like that. And they were like, no, we can't, nothing's wrong. But my foot has never been the same. And I also went when it was still super swollen. So I was out. I didn't get to perform. They had to put in my understudy, and I barely came out. So that happened in September, and I didn't come back fully until January. So I missed out on 2 huge shows. We did our, when I was with Ballet West, we did a program in September, October, I think. And then Nutcracker, which is December on. And I was unable to perform in either of them. And it was really hard. It was really hard.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine what that kind of thing is like, because I know some of the other things that I've seen is that one, when the injury happens, and it happens not only in ballet, but if you're an athlete, you start seeing the other people around you, and one, you want to participate, but then two, there might be a little bit of this, am I going to start slipping back because other people are going to kind of jump over my spot and take it because I'm on the sidelines right now, and the company has to move forward, and the team has to move forward, and all those kind of things. So you're wrestling with all kinds of things mentally, let alone physically, when you're out. So wow, it's really interesting. We've got about 7 minutes, which is great. I've got so many other things I want to get to, but one thing I thought was really awesome of you to mention to me during pre-show, I'm just going to kind of divulge from my topics, was that you had mentioned to me that you were listening to some of Alice's music once you found out you were going to be doing this, and you go ahead and kind of mention that what you were telling me about pre-show.
Okay, so when Mark reached out to me and was like, hey, like, would you want to be a part of this? This is Alice. This is what we're doing. We're doing like a pre-show. Like, would you be a part of it? And I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't know who they are. And like, I want to make sure that, you listen to these people, and you don't want to be, I didn't want to attach myself to something that I didn't necessarily like or support, because you should go ahead and give people that do feel like that the opportunity and this entire moment to be a part of. So I was like, let's go. And I actually have been listening to Alice, and you kind of have turned me on to them. I have been listening to them to work out to. I strongly recommend it. You guys should listen to Wide Awake and Land of Confusion. You're tired, everything like working out, and you get that last moment and you listen to them. It really does help push. So like, thank you guys for letting me finish my workouts, because like sometimes I can't, and the music is all that takes you up there.
That's awesome. I'm sure they're all appreciating that, and wishing you much love for those kind words to them, because you're actually the first one. Not that other guests haven't been listening to them. I'm sure they have, but you're the first one that actually vocalized it to me, and I thought that was freaking awesome. So I'm glad you got a chance to. Now you're part of that family. You're associated with them under that Alice umbrella, and it's that common thread again. And we talked about this pre-show of good people doing positive things the right way. And if those things, it doesn't matter what world you come from, if you can find those threads, then you have something in common, and then you kind of find your tribe, and it just starts to grow and gets bigger, and that's awesome. You find the right people. Let's see. What kind of advice would you give an aspiring dancer?
First off, I would say, like, there's always going to be negative things. You are going to hear horrible things constantly, and you're going to be told like you're not good enough or you can't do all that. But if you believe that it's something that you want to do, you have to do it, because it's something inside of you. And if you want to dance and you want a career with it, then you have to do it for yourself, because it's a beautiful, beautiful career, and it can be anything you make it. And you just have to tune everybody out and just do it for yourself. And it can be wonderful. It can be wonderful. Just don't give up, because there's going to be there's also a lot of different avenues. You don't necessarily have to dance professionally. You could just take a class once a week to get that part of you as a dancer and feel satisfied. And there's just so many ways to be that dancer and enjoy it and really achieve greatness, whatever that is, and whatever facility it is.
Wow, that's awesome. No, that's a really good advice. And one thing I wanted to also ask you is that what's something that might surprise people about you, just in general? Different guests have said different things.
I'm a little bit of a gamer. I play Overwatch. If anyone's out there, I love Overwatch. I play that constantly. It's a really great team-based game, and I'm a healer main. So if anybody knows, like, here I am. But I love it. I love video games, and I'm also a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Star Wars, Harry Potter. Like, I love it. I love it.
Okay, we've got all of those things you said I love too, but I'm not a gamer. That's the only thing. But I worked at a place that made games, so there's my connection to the gaming world. I did the audio stuff for some games and things back in the day, but that's a whole other aside. So what are your plans in about 2 minutes that are going to take you beyond ballet? Because at some point, like you said, you kind of have a short window. So what happens for you beyond ballet?
For me, I'm if you guys read my interview, I am trying to become a sports psychologist. I would like to start school and begin that next phase because ballet doesn't really pay that great. It should, honestly, that should be something that should change. And I hope that people will support the arts more so that pay and future shows and all that actually have more of a presence in society. But I would like to start my journey while dancing to become a sports psychologist because I really think that mental health and mental awareness is something that is lacking. And I truly, truly believe that we can change the world by understanding and listening. And if I can help somebody in any way achieve the career that they want in any way or any moment, I would love the opportunity. So that's kind of where I'm at. I haven't really started yet. I've just sent my stuff out to colleges. It's a little late, but you know, we're going. I'm gonna get there.
Well, that sounds like a really sound plan, and it sounds like you've definitely given it thought of what you want to be doing for your next steps. So, Anisa, I could have talked to you, like I've been saying for other guests, probably like another 30 minutes. Maybe if you're still around town and things become, we're out of all the phases and we can actually like be around people, we can actually do something in person. But stay safe. Thank you so much for taking the time. And hopefully I can just see you at the other end of this thing once we get to it. So.
Yes, I would love that as well. And if there's anybody out there, check out Olympic Ballet Theatre. They have a wonderful website, wonderful school. Just support the arts in any way you can.
Well said. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.